On the eve of my wedding, smoke rose from our yard, bitter and black. My stepmother had burned my dress. I stood with empty hands, heart thudding. But before dawn, feet gathered at our gate, and hands began to weave hope from cloth, memory, and morning light for me there. Stay, listen, and share this story of courage and community. Let its quiet strength keep your heart company with you. The sound that night was a soft crackle, almost polite, like sticks breaking to make a small fire for tea. I had just laid my dress on the rope to see it breathe in the moonlight. The cotton was light, dyed in deep indigo, with a row of white stitches along the hem that looked like falling rain. I had sewn those stitches slowly, one by one, with my own hands. Under the old shade tree, I smoothed the fabric and felt the day tilt toward my future. Tomorrow I would marry Kojo, whose laugh had the round warmth of the sun. The village had been humming with our wedding plans for weeks. I could almost hear their joy in the dark, like a quiet drum heartbeat, steady and sure. I walked back to the house for a moment to wash my hands. The basin water was cool. The soap smelled faintly of flowers. When I stepped out again, the smell changed. It was sharp, bitter, with a bite like tears. Smoke curled up from the corner of the yard. It took a second for my mind to understand what my eyes were seeing. The rope was on fire. The cloth sagged, then leaped with a hungry tongue. The white stitches lit like tiny stars and vanished. "Mother Isi," I cried, though I did not know why my mouth called her. She stood near the storage shed, still as if she were carved. Her face was turned toward the flame. The light touched her cheeks. I saw the little scar near her mouth, the one I had noticed when she came to our home 2 years after my mother's passing. Isi had always moved like someone who was late for something important, even when there was nowhere to go. Her eyes were a deep brown, hard to read, like a river under shade. "What have you done?" I said. The words were thin. The fire answered with a crack that sent a small cloud of sparks upward. Isi's jaw tightened. "You should not have left a dress on a rope at night," she said. "This is how houses burn." My feet took me forward, but the heat pushed me back. I grabbed a gourd of water and threw it. The water hissed and the flame pulled away. It did not die. My heart pounded. My hands shook. I threw water again and again. The cloth was turning into black lace, then into nothing. I felt Kojo's laughter recede from me, like a canoe drifting in fog. I heard my name carried by the wind from beyond the wall, but it was only the night birds. I threw water until the fire was ash and a dark smell sat in my throat. I stood there blinking. The rope sagged like a tired arm. I could not feel my fingers. The dress was now a black stain on the dust, with a few stubborn pieces clinging to the rope, curling in the air as if trying to remember what they had been. Isi did not move to help. She folded her arms and looked at me, then at the yard as if measuring it. Her lips pressed together. "This is why I tell you to keep things tidy," she said. I turned to her and finally found my voice. "You lit it," I said. It was not a question. I had seen the match in her hand, the little flare, before my mind could accept it. She did not answer at first. Then her chin lifted. "It was pride that made you sew it yourself," she said. "Pride burns." My mouth opened and closed. I wanted to ask, why this, why now? What harm had a dress ever done? I wanted to tell her about the hours I had bent over the needle, the pattern I had learned from my grandmother's book, the cool mornings I had saved to buy good thread. But those words scattered when I opened my lips. I could only stare at the ash and smell the sour smoke. From inside, my father's cough sounded like a branch knocking on a door. He had been ill with a chest cold since the dust of Harmattan came, the season when the wind carried fine sand across our fields and made our skin feel like paper. He had learned to stand between people when they were angry, but he had not stood between me and Essie for a long time. He liked to say that peace is a job for both hands, and his hands were often busy making furniture for the market. Tonight I heard a stool scrape, and then his steps stopped at the threshold. He saw the smoke and covered his mouth. "Amma," he said. "What is this?" I swallowed. "My dress," I whispered. "It burned." He looked from me to Essie, then to the rope. His shoulders fell. "How?" he asked. though I could hear in his voice that he already feared the answer. Essie spoke first. "A spark," she said, from the kitchen coals. "A foolish mistake." I stared at her. "No," I said. My voice trembled like a leaf. She set a match to it. My father's eyes searched our faces, mine wet and open, Easy's dry and fixed. He pressed his fingers to his forehead, as if to soothe a headache coming. "This is not the night for such trouble," he said. "Tomorrow is—" He could not finish. "There is no tomorrow that is not today," Essie said. Her tone was flat, but the words struck the air like stones. I took a step back from both of them. The yard seemed to tilt. The moonlight laid a pale path to the gate, and my feet wanted to follow it into the road, into the night where nothing had a name. I pressed my palms together and tried to steady my breath. Kojo, I thought, and it was as if I called him from across water. I had never kept secrets from him. He would be coming at dawn to bring palm wine for the elders, as custom asked. How would I tell him this? I bent and picked up a scrap of cloth that had escaped the flame. It was stiff and black at the edge. The white stitch at its center had turned gray, like a cloud that lost its rain. I placed it in my pocket without knowing why. The night was very quiet. Even the goats seemed to respect the silence. Beyond the wall, a dog called out once and then was quiet too. I needed air that did not smell like loss. I walked to the gate. Essie's voice followed me. "Where are you going?" she asked. There was no concern in it. There was something else, a tightness. "To breathe," I said. The road at night was a ribbon of dust that held the moonlight like water holds stars. The trees along it whispered. My feet knew the way to the river without my eyes. We had walked there as children to watch the egrets and throw sticks in the current. The river at night moved like a secret. I stood there and listened to it. I could have cried. The tears stood ready. They tasted like metal, like old coins. But they did not fall. My heart was a drum, but no dance came with it. As I stood, I remembered my mother's whisper. She had not lived to see me become a woman. But when I was small and frightened, she used to say, "If you cannot carry pain, give it to water. Water does not break." I knelt on the bank and dipped my fingers. The river was cool and it took the heat from my skin. "What do?" I asked the dark. The answer came with the wind that moved the reeds. "Wait." Then another word. "Tell." I walked back toward the house, and on the way, I passed the healer's compound. A soft lamp glowed at the door. Old Nana sat there with her wrapped folder of leaves, her hair silver as the river. She saw me and lifted her chin. "Child," she said, "why are your shoulders heavy at this hour?" I stopped. My legs suddenly wanted to sit. I did. The mat was woven tight. The smell of herbs held me like a small hand. I told her. Not all at once. First the smoke, then the cloth, then Easy's match, then my father's silence. The telling came like the river, steady and slow. Nana watched me, the lamp making a small island of light around us. She said when I finished. She leaned back and folded her arms across her knees. The night can hide truth, but only until morning. She paused, listening to the wind, to the night insects. Go home now and rest your eyes. At sunrise, we will ask the day to help. We will sit under the big tree and we will listen. Truth will find its path. It always does. She touched my hand with her warm fingers. Sleep if you can. If you cannot sleep, breathe as if you are sleeping. It will convince your heart. I stood to go and bowed. Thank you, I said. It felt small, but it was the only word I had. When I reached our gate, I found my father sitting on the stool outside, his hands clasped between his knees. He looked like a man who had misplaced something dear. Essie had gone in. He lifted his face toward me. Amma, he said. I do not know what to say. Neither do I answered. I sat beside him, not touching, but close enough to hear his breath. We watched the yard without speaking. The rope swung a little in the breeze as if a ghost still hung a dress there. Tomorrow, he said after a while, his voice careful, I will ask the elders to sit. Nana will make a fair space. We will not rush in darkness, I nodded. It was what I wanted before I knew I wanted it. The air had the scent of ash and night flowers. Somewhere, far off, A drum called, slow and steady, as if counting the heartbeats to morning. When I finally lay down on my mat, the smoke smell came with me. I turned my face to the wall and kept my eyes open. Sleep did not come, but something like rest sat beside me. I listened to the house settle, to the small clicks and quiet breaths that make a home at night. In another room, Essie moved once, then was still. I tried to imagine her thoughts and failed. I tried to remember the exact shade of indigo I had chosen. It hovered just beyond my reach. Near dawn, I heard footsteps on the road and low voices. The village wakes slowly, like a person who needs to stretch before rising. Someone's hen laughed softly. A goat answered. The first light came like a promise on my window. I rose, washed my face, and wrapped my shawl. I tied my hair back and went outside. In the cool gray blue, the yard looked simple, like a picture a child might draw. A line for the wall, a circle for the tree, a square for the house. The burn mark was a dark mouth on the ground. Essie stood by the door with her arms folded, staring at a point beyond our wall. She wore her brown dress. Her face was set. When she saw me, she looked away. Her lips pressed each other thin, as if she did not want words to escape. I wanted to ask 10 questions and none all at once. I did not speak. My father came out and looked at us both as if he could not decide which branch to hold. He cleared his throat. "Let us go," he said. We walked toward the big shade tree at the center of the village. The morning air tasted clean. As we drew near, I saw a few people already waiting. Kojo stood just outside the circle, his shoulders square, his hands clasped. When our eyes met, his face first softened and then tightened when he looked at my shawl and the absence beneath. I felt the truth travel from me to him without words. He came forward and took my hand in both of his. They were warm. He did not ask a question. He just stood near me as steady as the earth. Nana sat on her stool under the tree. Her wrapper was the color of the river stones. She looked at us with eyes that saw more than faces. The bench for the elders was empty, but the mat was spread for all. It was clear from the place of her stool that this would not be a trial to break us. It would be a table to hold us. "Come," she said when we arrived. "Sit. The day has opened its hands." People gathered, neighbors we had known for years, women who had taught me to stir stew without burning it, men who had carried our roof beams from the edge of the forest. Children sat in a loose ring, watching with solemn eyes. No one shouted. The voices were low, the sound like the sea far away. A chicken fussed on the fence and then settled. I sat between Kojo and my father. Essie sat on the other side of my father, a small space between them like a line drawn in the sand. Nana's grandson set a calabash of water before us. Its surface reflected leaves, clouds, and a tiny patch of sky. Nana lifted her hands. "We have been called because a cloth was turned to smoke," she said. "We do not sit to point at smoke. Smoke is gone when the wind moves. We sit to touch the fire beneath and to hold it with wisdom. We will listen. We will not hurry. A proverb says, 'When the truth walks in, lies find no chair.' Let us make a chair for truth." Essie's jaw moved. My father looked down at his hands. Kojo's thumb brushed the back of my hand once like a bird's wing. Nana turned her face to me. "Amma," she said gently, "what did you see? Speak slowly, for our ears are wide," I told her. I told everyone. I kept my voice steady. I told the time, the moonlight, the rope, the flame, the match, the water, the little piece of cloth in my pocket. I did not call Essie names. I did not ask for anything. I just told the shape of the night. When I finished, I placed the charred scrap on the mat. It looked small and brave. Nana nodded. She waited a breath, then turned to Essie. "Mother Essie," she said, using the grace name the village gives a woman, even when the heart is hard. "What did you see?" Essie lifted her chin. For a long space, she said nothing. The leaves shifted above us. Then she spoke. "I saw a girl who thinks she does not need guidance," she said. "I saw a dress hung on the rope at night, when embers can leap. I saw danger, so I tried to save the house." Nana listened as if the words were a bird she did not want to frighten away. "Did you light a match?" she asked. Essie's eyes slid away. She began and stopped. Her hands were tight as fists in her lap. I went to the kitchen, she said finally. I took a coal with the spoon. I carried it to the rope. I thought I would scorch the edge to make a warning. It moved. The cloth took it. It was too fast. She swallowed. I tried to stop it. It was too fast. My breath halted. We had all felt the fastness of fire. But I had seen the match too. Kojo lifted his voice for the first time. Mother Essie, he said quietly. The dress was wet from washing. I saw my amma rinse it. A coal would not light a wet cloth. A match would. The truth is not water. It does not spread when touched. It stands. Essie looked at him and something flickered in her eyes, anger or pain. You speak as if you already live in this house, she said. He lowered his eyes, but his hand did not leave mine. Nana traced a finger along the rim of the calabash. We do not have to fight with words to find truth, she said. We will ask for a friend. She lifted the calabash of water and held it out to Essie. Sister, she said, hold this. Speak your heart. Water hears without judging. Essie took the calabash. Her hands trembled. A small tremble, but we all saw. Nana continued, her voice even. Tell us what sat in your chest like a stone. Tell it to the water. Maybe the water will soften it. Essie's mouth opened, closed. She looked at her reflection in the water. Her eyes shone back and she frowned at them as if they were someone else's. When she spoke, her voice was thin. I felt forgotten, she said. I felt pushed to the side like a stool no one uses. Your mother's shadow stands in this house, Amma, and I stand beside it like a tree growing in the wrong place. I heard the village sing your name for weeks. I felt my own name fading. I had anger as sharp as a thorn, she paused. The calabash shifted. A ring of water climbed its side, then settled. I did light the match, she whispered. I told myself it would teach you to listen. I told myself I could beat it out before it spread. I told myself the fire was small, like my pain. But pain is not small when it is inside. It became big. I watched it eat the cloth and I was afraid I had become the fire. A breath ran through the circle, like wind through tall grass. Kojo's fingers tightened on mine. My father bowed his head and covered his eyes. Nana's face did not change, but her eyes grew kind. Thank you, she said softly. The water has heard. Essie's shoulders dropped as if the words themselves were heavy and she was relieved to set them down. She pressed her lips together and waited. Nana set the calabash back on the mat. The water inside did not spill. She looked at my father. Brother, she said, you carry this house in your hands. What do you hold today? My father lifted his face. His cheeks were wet. I had not seen him cry since my mother's funeral. His voice was hoarse. I hold my failure, he said. I should have seen this fear before it made a flame. I should have been a bridge between the women I love. He rubbed his eyes with the back of his hand. I ask for wisdom, not for blame. Nana nodded. You ask well, she said. She looked around the circle. We have heard. We will not heap stones. Stones do not help a person stand. We will not say that there is no wound. There is. There is ash in our mouths. But ash can feed the soil where we plant repair. We will make a path, and we will ask the one who was burned most to speak of what helps. I felt my throat tighten. All eyes moved to me, but they did not feel heavy. They felt like hands ready to steady. I took a breath and let it out slowly. I want to be married, I said. Not only to a man, but to this village. I want our life to be honest. I do not want to walk into the day with a lie under my feet. And I do not want to punish anyone in a way that makes more darkness. My mother used to say, a calabash may be cracked, yet it can carry water if the hands are patient. I paused. I want to be patient, but I do not want to pretend that nothing happened. My dress is gone. Nana bowed her head, acknowledging the loss. She let silence hold us a moment. Then she turned to the women on the far mat, those whose fingers were swift with cloth. Sisters, she said, if we gather what we have, can we make new cloth before the sun turns much? The women looked at one another and smiled with mouths and eyes. We can, said Auntie Ya, whose loom made a song of its own. We cannot weave a forest by noon, but we can weave a path through it. A few women stood up at once, already counting in their minds. "I have white thread," one said. "I have indigo dye," said another. A girl lifted her small hand and said, "We still have the pattern from my sister's dress." The circle broke into soft, purposeful murmurs, the sound of many minds shaping a single thing. Nana lifted her palm and the sound paused. She turned to Essie. "Mother Essie," she said, and now her voice had the weight of a bell. "Truth has sat with us. It asks us to clean the space it occupies. You have made harm. You have spoken the reasons. Now you will make repair. Will you stand with these women and help your daughter's dress be reborn? Will you carry water, smooth thread, wash your hands of pride?" Essie's eyes filled. She nodded once, twice. "I will," she said. "And," Nana added, "you will stand before the people and name what you did, not what you wish to do. You will ask forgiveness once, not again and again. You will accept what answer comes. You will also sit with me later, and we will talk about this shadow you described. A person should not live beside a shadow without knowing its name." Essie swallowed. "I will," she repeated, softer. Her mouth trembled. I saw the small scar by her lip move and thought of how that line must have come there once, by accident or by hurt, and how it had never left. Kojo squeezed my hand. He leaned and whispered so only I could hear, "We will stand." I nodded. For the first time since the fire, the air felt safe in my lungs. Nana stood with slow dignity, like a tall tree thinking about wind. "Go then," she said to the women. "Let your hands be swift and your hearts be strong. The rest of us will prepare the ground for vows. We will sweep. We will make the seats ready. We will tell the drums what song to play." The circle rose and shifted in a quiet, gentle hurry. Essie looked at me and looked away. Her chin wobbled. She walked toward the women with her head low. I watched her join them. Auntie Ya took her hand, and I saw Isi blink like someone who had expected a slap and received a blanket. Kojo and my father and I went to sweep the space near the shea tree where the small ceremony would be later. The broom's whisper on the dust was steady. My father's hand brushed mine once, and I let it. The sky lightened. The birds decided that this was a day worth singing about and began. The loom sings if you know how to listen. It does not sing loudly. It sings like a mother humming when her child is learning to sleep. That morning, the weaving shed under Auntie Ya's garden with its low shade and the smell of wet thread became a place of music. I had seen cloth made before, but never with the whole village's breath inside it. The women moved together as if they shared a single heartbeat. Some measured, some dyed. Some smoothed drop spindle strands and made them fine as hair. Isi rolled her sleeves and worked, her eyes on her hands, her mouth pressed into a straight line so the trembling inside would not show. She carried water to cool the dye, and her pale arms took on the blue kiss of indigo. When the thread tangled, she patiently unwound it with fingers that remembered how to tend. Her fingers had tended me once when I had a fever. It was not easy to think about that and this, both true at the same time. Auntie Ya watched and nodded, satisfied. "We will not chase speed until we tear it," she said. "We will do what can be done." The pattern was simple, a calm field of indigo with a rain of white stitches, like the hem that had gone to smoke. We agreed not to copy every detail. We would honor what was lost and also make it new. Kojo came with food and water. He did not crowd me. He let me feel the strong, quiet warmth of his presence. He said, "Eat this," when my hands forgot to eat. He said, "Drink," when the sun climbed higher and made the shade shallow. He did not speak about what had happened unless I spoke first. My father worked with the men smoothing the ground, erecting a little canopy, and polishing the stools until they shone. He moved like a man who is not sure his actions matter and hopes they might. Now and then, he stood at the doorway of the weaving shed and watched the threads move under experienced fingers, as if the sight could braid something back together inside him. When the first length of cloth came off the loom, the women spread it on a clean mat white as cloud. It lay there like a long blue afternoon. I touched it with the back of my fingers the way you touch a sleeping child. It was warm from the hands that had made it. It smelled faintly of dye, and beneath that, of something softer. the oil from the fingers of many women, a scent like patience. Will it be enough? I asked. It will be what it will be, Auntie Ya said. In weddings, the cloth is only a visible part of the vow. Essie brought over thread for the white stitches and looked at me. For a second, our eyes met. She swallowed. If you like, I can begin the hem, she said. My mind flashed with last night's image, the hem that had burned first. I felt my throat tighten. But then I thought about Nana's words. Clean the space truth occupies. Isie's hands shook a little, but they were steady enough to serve this work. I nodded. Isie sat and bent her head over the cloth. She stitched carefully, counting under her breath. I watched her mouth move. She looked like someone learning a prayer by heart. The other women glanced at me, and when I nodded again, they smiled small smiles that said, "It is a step." Around midday, Nana came to see, her white shawl like a moonstick in day. She touched my shoulder lightly. "Come," she said. "Walk with me." We stepped out into the sunlight. The sky was a wide bowl of blue with a feather of cloud at its edge. Heat rose from the ground like a quiet animal. We walked toward the river. Nana's feet found the path without looking, as if the earth remembered her weight. "Your heart is doing a lot of work," she said. It was not a question. I nodded. "When I woke, I thought I had no more tears," I said. "But I keep finding more." "Grief is like that," Nana said. "It hides water in the cracks and then brings it out when the heat is high." She let silence be our companion for a few steps. "You are doing the right thing," she added softly, "by not letting anger drive the cart." "I am angry," I said. "I am so angry I feel hollow." "Yes," she said. "Anger can be a good drum if it keeps time for justice. It is a bad drum if it makes noise only for itself." We reached the river. It slid by with a small, constant sound like breathing. In the reeds, a frog blinked at us, unafraid. Nana knelt and dipped her fingers. "You came here last night," she said. It was not a question either. "I did," I answered. I asked the water to hold my pain. "It has held many," she said. "It will not sink." She looked at me. "When we sit this afternoon, I need to ask something difficult of you." I waited, my breath small. "You must allow us to speak the truth fully, even the parts that hurt. It will not be a spectacle or a punishment. It will be a clearing. For that, we need the wind. And sometimes the wind lifts things we had not tied down." I thought of the way the dress had caught fire, how the tiny edge had leaped into flame. "I trust you," I said. It was true. Trust felt like a spoon I could hold that wouldn't bend. Nana nodded. "Good," she said. She stood. "Let us go back. Our work is waiting." When we returned, Isie had made her way around the hem. The white stitches marched there like small raindrops. She flexed her fingers and rubbed them. Her palms were stained faintly blue. I wondered if the stain would last a day or more. In a way, I hoped it would. I wanted the world to see this work on her hands. As afternoon eased forward, people began to arrive again under the shade tree. The air had that afternoon laziness where the sun leans on the earth and makes it hum. Kojo stood tall in his clean shirt. The children crept closer, tasting the solemnity with their eyes. The chickens had the good sense to stay away. Nana called us to sit, and the same calabash of water rested in front of her. Its surface reflected the leaves again. The light was different now, warmer, kinder. "Friends," Nana said, "we continue the work of mourning. We do not sit to discuss a dress only. We sit because in this place we make life together. When a part tears, the whole feels it. We will speak with dignity. We will not throw words like stones." She gestured to Azie. "Mother Easy, we ask you to stand." Azie rose. Her back was straight, though I could see the effort it cost her. She looked at the ground, then at the people, then at the ground again. Nana did not hurry her. Isie took a breath that lifted her whole chest. "I lit the match," she said. Her voice trembled. "I burned my daughter's dress." The word daughter sat in the air like a small bird unsure it was welcome. She let it sit. "I did it because I was angry and afraid. I told myself it was a lesson. It was wrong. I cannot put the cloth back. I can only show my hands and ask for a path. There was no murmur, no hiss, no shifting of feet, only the dry sound of leaves. Nana nodded once as if a door had been opened at last. "Thank you," she said. Then she turned to me. "Amma," she said. "Please stand." I stood. I could feel my heart thumping, and I wondered if the people could see it beating under my shawl. I looked at AC and saw she was also looking at me, her eyes open, vulnerable as a cut. "I am hurt," I said. "I feel as if I lost a friend in that cloth. I feel like something precious was burned not by accident but by choice. That feels heavier. So I ask for truth, and I thank you for giving it. And I ask to be allowed to feel my pain and not be hurried out of it. I also ask for a way forward that does not break us more. I want to walk into my marriage clear-eyed. I want to know where the rough places are so I do not trip with my hands full." I sat. Nana's eyes were gentle. She looked to the elders then, and to the men and women on both sides, and asked for witnesses if any had seen or heard something that would help truth stand steady. A neighbor spoke about seeing Essie buy matches the afternoon before. Another said she had heard Essie's voice hard like a drum in the yard at dusk. Each word was held with care. No one used them as knives. Nana listened to all. "We have enough," she said finally. "We do not need to gather more leaves than will make the soup good. Now we will make decisions, not to wound, but to heal." She turned to Essie. "For your hand in this harm, you will give your hands for repair, as you began this morning. You will bring water and wood to those who work on this wedding. You will take up tasks that make this day light rather than heavy, and you will, after the wedding, spend 3 market days helping at the elders' table, serving those who come for counsel. But you will also sit with me to speak about what is under the anger, so this pattern does not repeat when a new cloth is on the line." Essie nodded, tears coming now like a slow leak from a clay pot. "I will," she said. Nana turned to the circle. "And we," she said, "will be careful with our tongues. We will not make this story into a stick to hit a woman with on the road. We will hold it like a mirror that helps us see ourselves. Many here have felt the knife of jealousy or fear. If we say we have not, we lie to ourselves. Let this be a lesson in how to carry this feeling without setting other people's joy on fire." Heads nodded. Hands pressed knees. An old man at the back raised his hand and said, "Elder, may I offer a thought?" When she gestured, he spoke. "My mother used to say, if you pour oil on water, it spreads until the bowl shines. Let our kindness be the oil today, not our gossip." Nana smiled. "A good thought," she said. "Now let us do the work still waiting. The sun will not stand still while we talk." And so we rose again, not because our pain had vanished, but because our legs still had work to do. The quiet activity began to hum once more. The women wove. The men set poles and draped cloth for shade. Kojo's cousins arrived with gourds of palm wine, their bare feet silent in the dust. Children gathered flowers, their faces solemn, their hands gentle. In the late golden light, Essie brought me a small bowl of cool water and a piece of bread. She held it out with both hands. Her face was clean, but her eyes were pink at the edges. "Eat," she said. "Please," I took it. For a breath, her fingers touched mine. They were so warm and human, not the hands of an enemy, just hands that had done wrong and were trying to do right. "Thank you," I said. The bread was rough and sweet. The water washed away the dust in my throat. The moment was small. It was also a seed. After the meal, I went to look at the dress they had shaped for me. It was not finished, but I could see already that it would be beautiful. Not in a loud way that pretends to know the future, but in a quiet way that agrees to walk with you into the unknown. The stitches along the hem were clean and even. The blue was deep and gentle, like dusk on a happy day. My fingertips ran along it, and I felt the whole village there, in texture, in spirit. As evening came, the sky softened. A breeze slipped under the canopy and went from face to face like a blessing. Nana gathered us again for a brief word before the day thinned to night. "We will sleep," she said, "and we will wake, and we will witness joy. Joy is not a denial of reality. It is reality, with its arms open." She looked at Essie and then at me. and then at my father and at Kojo. It is not easy to say what is true when we fear it will make us alone. But the only thing that makes us truly alone is hiding the truth from ourselves. Today, truth has sat with us, and we did not turn it away. This is wisdom. The drums began a slow, sweet pulse, not the fierce, fast rhythm of youth that runs and jumps, but a steady beat that asks you to sway, to listen, to remember. A few people danced, not with the wildness of a festival, but with the gratitude of people who have just put down a heavy load. Kojo took my hand and led me in a small circle. We did not move much. We looked at one another, and our feet knew when to step and when to pause. He leaned close and murmured, "I am proud of you." "I am only standing," I whispered back. "That is a kind of bravery," he said. When the stars came out, they felt near enough to speak with. The moon, thin as a respect blade, hovered at the edge of the sky. We drifted home tired with a clean tired. My father walked between Essie and me. His hands dangled at his sides, empty but ready. At our gate, Essie stopped and faced me. The light from the window struck her cheek. "Amma," she said, "I cannot ask you to forgive me now. That would be stealing time from your heart. I ask only to be allowed to try to be worthy of forgiveness." I looked at her. I saw not a villain but a woman, complicated as a song with minor notes. "We will see," I said. It was not cold. It was a simple promise to be truthful. She nodded. Her mouth trembled. Then she went inside. That night, lying on my mat, the smell of dye and thread clung to the air. I put my hand on my chest and felt the slow beat there, and for the first time since the dress turned to smoke, my breath came easy. The new cloth lay folded in Auntie Ya's house, guarded like a sleeping child. The village lay quiet around us, a great body with many breaths rising and falling. The story had not ended. It had turned, like a path that moves out of the shade and into the light for a while. As I drifted to sleep, I thought of a simple truth. Sometimes the community is the dress. It does not keep you from pain, but it covers your shame and makes you ready to walk into the day with dignity. The thought curled around me as kindly as a shawl. Dawn came on tiptoe, touching the roofs and the leaves and the faces of the sleeping people. Birds stitched the edges of the sky with sound. I woke with the feeling that something good had come home. My body remembered the hard hours and the soft ones, and both made me stronger. I washed with cool water that turned my skin to gooseflesh, tied my hair, and stood for a moment at the threshold. The yard wore the memory of the burn like a dark patch, but it no longer bit my eyes. It was part of our soil now. Kojo arrived with his family when the sun was still low and sweet. His mother embraced me, a firm squeeze that said, "You are ours." His father shook my father's hand with both of his. There were no speeches, just the ordinary kindnesses that make ceremonies possible. Children brought flowers that smelled like morning. The men took their places. The women settled, skirts billowing like small sails in a gentle wind. Isi stood apart, then stepped forward with her hands full of folded cloth. She had worked before the dawn with the women, and her eyes were tired but soft. When she placed the new dress in my arms, I felt its weight and its promise. It was the right weight. It felt like a future with honest seams. "Let me help you," she said. Her voice was careful, serving. She looked at me as one looks at a door, waiting to see if it will open. I nodded. In my father's room, we set the dress on the mat and smoothed it. The light fell across it in slants. Essie's fingers trembled when they touched the hem. She broke the silence like someone stepping into a cold river. "If my hands shake," she said, "it is because I am ashamed." I looked at her face in the mirror, then at mine. Side by side, we could be sisters or strangers. "It is also because you did not sleep," I said. It was not forgiveness. It was respect for the truth of her effort. She met my eyes and something in her relaxed, like a tight knot that loosened half a turn. Together we lifted the dress. It slid over my shoulders and settled on me as if it had been waiting. The indigo deepened the brown of my arms. The white stitches at the hem made a line of quiet celebration. Isi stood back. Her hand went to her mouth and then fell. "You are beautiful," she said. There was no envy in it, only awe. She took a breath. Amma, I will say it fully now, so that my mouth remembers it later when it wants to change. I was wrong. I harmed you. I harmed this house. I am sorry, I nodded. The words fell into place. Thank you, I said. My heart stirred. I did not reach for her and I did not turn away. I kept both of us in the room, standing where we were. We walked back to the tree and the village welcomed us, not with noise but with a feeling that pressed against us like a hug. Nana was already seated, her shawl a pale arc against the green. She looked at us and smiled, a small smile that warmed our bones. The ceremony was simple like water. Kojo stood beside me. We did not need many words. When the elder who knew the old songs spoke, his voice flowed like a smooth river over stones. Marriage, he said, is like two paths that agree to walk side by side, knowing the clay will be sticky some days and the dust will be fierce on others. It does not say the hills will fall flat. It says, we will climb together. He lifted a cup and poured a little water on the ground. We do not drink before the earth has had her share. We do not laugh before the quiet has been heard. Kojo and I each took a sip, and then my father lifted the calabash, his hand steady now. He poured a little water too. For those who cannot be here, he said, thinking of my mother, thinking perhaps of the small hidden sorrows in his own chest. The earth drank it without complaint. Then Nana stood and did the thing that made this day different from all others. She called Essie forward. The people hushed, not with fear, but with the understanding that this moment was part of our story now. Mother Essie, Nana said, you will do a small thing with large meaning. She handed her a length of white thread. You will tie it around the bride's wrist. This is not to bind her. It is to show that you know the weight of your touch and choose to use it gently. Essie's hand shook, but she did not drop the thread. She stood before me, and for a second it was our two faces only in the world. She wound the thread once, twice, and tied a neat knot that I could take off later. May my hands do no harm, she whispered. The words were for her and for me and for the village. Nana nodded, satisfied. And may the truth keep watch over this house, she said. The proverb came quiet and sweet like fruit. A path with good shade still leads somewhere. We exchanged vows, Kojo and I, looking at each other as if reading books we had waited a long time to open. We said simple words, words our grandparents had said, words that do not pretend they can prevent sorrow, only that they can hold it kindly together when it comes. When Kojo placed the ring on my finger, the metal was cool and then warm. When I placed his, I felt the steady drum in his wrist that was his heart. It guided me. After the vows, people laughed and cried at the same time, the way joy often arrives after a difficult night. Children danced with their feet and their faces both. The women who had woven the cloth clapped and ululated, their voices winding through the branches and out to wherever voices go when they leave trees. The men lifted Kojo and then me as if we were light, and we were, for we had laid down heavy things. Food came. Plantains fried gold, rice that steamed, stew that smiled with spice, fish roasted and brushed with oil. It was not grand. It was enough. People ate and blessed the air and one another. Kojo's aunt pressed a piece of sweet from her palm into mine. For the journey, she said, as if we were about to walk a long road. And we were Issy did not hide. She served. She laughed carefully, the way someone laughs when their chest is still tender. People spoke to her with respect, not pity. Some placed a hand on her arm in passing, a quiet language. We see your work. She took off her headscarf when the sun dipped and wiped her forehead with it, and then tied it again. When she looked at me, she looked fully, not sideways. Not once did she try to make the day about her pain. She had been asked to help carry, and she carried. At one point, my father stood and cleared his throat. He placed a stool near Nana and faced the people. He was not a man who liked to speak in front of many, but his voice was steady, as if a beam under a roof. I want to say something small, he said. Today I saw my daughter be strong, and I saw my wife be sincere. I saw my future son be a good neighbor. I do not deserve it, but it has come into my yard. I will water it. I will not let old shadows make me a coward. If you see me hiding, pull me into the sun. People laughed softly, not at him, but with him. Nana touched his arm with her fingertips and smiled. And in that smile was the entire morning's work. The weaving, the confession, the decision to build instead of break. After the food, we walked a little to the tree with Kojo's hand in mine, and we sat and watched the children play. The light was warm, the kind that holds you like a mother's arm. Kojo leaned close and said, "Do you want to go to the river?" "Just us?" I nodded. We slipped away, not hiding, just letting the village enjoy itself. The river was a shade story now, a low voice telling the bank what it had seen during the day. I took the charred scrap from my pocket, the little piece I had saved from the burned dress. I had forgotten it in the busy work. It lay in my palm like a memory that had decided to stay long enough to be named. "What will you do with it?" Kojo asked. I looked at the water and at the sky. "I think I will not throw it in," I said. "Let it stay dry. Let it be a witness on a shelf, so that when we are tempted to be careless with each other's hearts, we will remember the smell of smoke." He nodded. That is wisdom. We sat there for a long moment, saying nothing, being part of the day. Then we went back to the song and the laughter and the small chaos of celebration. When sunset came, it painted everyone with gold. Even the worries in their eyes, even the lines of their mouths, glowed as if Grace had decided to touch everything. People began to leave in clumps, hugging, lifting hands, calling blessings. The drums softened. The sky became a smooth purple, almost a prayer. At the end, when the mats were rolled and the stools stacked and the last calabash washed and turned upside down to dry, the four of us stayed, me, Kojo, my father, and Essie. The tree held our quiet. Cicadas made a gentle, patient sound. The dust had settled, literally and in our hearts. Essie spoke first. "Amma," she said. I ask again, not for forgiveness now, but to be allowed to be someone who earns it. She looked at Kojo. "And to you, I promise to be a woman who helps your home be a place where truth is welcome. Not only pleasant truths, but the ones that make us better." Kojo nodded. "You have begun," he said simply. My father looked at me. "What do you want to do with the burned place in the yard?" he asked. I thought about it. I imagined planting something there that could grow in ash. "Let us plant a tree," I said. "A small shade tree. It will take time. That feels right." "Tomorrow," he said, "we will do it." We stood together, and for the first time, I put my hand gently on Essie's shoulder. It was a light touch, no more than a promise. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, let out a long breath, and opened them again. The stars were beginning to prick the dark. As we walked back to the house, Nana appeared from the shadows, as if she had been part of the tree. "One more thing," she said, smiling, "and then I will let you rest." She placed a small cloth in my hand. Inside was a smooth stone, gray with a white line running straight through it, as if the earth itself had sewn a stitch. "For your shelf," she said, "to sit with the charred scrap. Remember this line when you feel a tear inside you. Sometimes the world mends itself in plain sight." I held the stone. Its weight was reassuring. "Thank you," I said. My words that day were simple, but they were full. Sleep that night came easy, like a friend who knows the way to your door without being told. In my dreams, the river flowed backward for a moment and then forward again, and in both directions it laughed. Morning brought its own small tasks, sweeping, washing, returning borrowed platters, laughing gently about small mistakes. It also brought the need to plant the little tree. Kojo and my father dug a square of earth where the burn mark had been. The dirt was dark and damp, richer for the ash. Essie brought water and a young tree from the nursery, its leaves thin but eager. We set it in the ground. I pressed the soil around it with my palms. The earth smelled like clean paper and hope. "This one will throw good shade," my father said. He spoke like a man who believed his words could lean on the future without falling. We stood in a half circle and watched the little tree catch the light and give a little of it back. Essie reached out and touched one leaf with her finger. then drew her hand back as if she had touched something sacred. "In time," Nana had said yesterday, "we will sit here and tell this story without pain, only with gratitude because we chose truth." At that moment, I could almost believe it. The hurt was still there, smaller now, like a cat that had wandered into an alley and found it did not want to be fierce today. Before the sun rose too high, people came by with small jokes and small gifts and big smiles, the community's way of saying, "We are still here." Auntie Ya brought a scrap of cloth left from the dress, shaped into a small purse. "For your rings when you take them off to knead dough," she said. A neighbor brought a pot of soup and said, "For the days when you forget to make it." A child brought a paper flower with too much glue and said, "For beauty." It was all perfect. I placed the stone Nana had given me on a shelf in our main room next to the charred scrap. For a while I simply looked at them. One was ruined and honest. The other was whole and honest. Between them, a new space opened in me where I could hold both things and not be torn. I was grateful to see it with my own eyes. On a quiet afternoon, a few days later, Essie and I stood at the doorway watching the little tree. Its leaves had a way of moving that made them look as if they were whispering to each other. Essie spoke, her voice as careful as footsteps in a dark room. "Amma," she said, "would you like to come with me to the market tomorrow? There is thread I want to buy. I have a mind to sew a small mat for the shelf, for the stone and your scrap." I looked at her. My first impulse was to say, "Not yet." Then I remembered the way forgiveness can be planted the way we plant trees, with small holes and small roots, and care. "Yes," I said. "Let us go." The next day at the market, the colors felt brighter and the calls sounded like music. Essie walked beside me, not ahead, not behind. We chose a thread the color of light through leaves, and another the color of clean smoke. And we laughed at that, clean smoke. What a strange idea. We bought a few other things that homes always need: salt, oil, a bar of soap that smelled like lemons. On the way home, Essie told me a story about her mother that I had never heard. About a day the rains did not come, and they tricked the sun into hiding by hanging white cloth over the garden, just for fun, to make the plants feel brave enough to grow. We laughed until our sides hurt, and then we walked the rest of the way in a happy quiet. There are days when the old feeling returns like a shadow from behind the wall, when I pass the shelf and see the black scrap and think, that was a terrible night. There are days when Essie stares at nothing and I know she is walking with shame again. On those days we do not pretend. We let the truth sit on the bench with us. We drink tea and do our work. We do not let the past pour itself over the present like too much salt. We season gently. When people ask about our wedding, we smile and tell them about the white thread around my wrist, about how Kojo's uncle dropped the gourd and everyone laughed until we cried, about how the children smuggled extra sweets and their mothers pretended not to see. Sometimes, when the time is right and the people are our own, we tell the whole truth, not to spark shame, but to feed wisdom. We tell them how a village took grief and soaked it in patience until it became a kindness that could dry our hands. This is how justice came to our home. Not with noise, not with triumph that wants to be seen from far away, but with simple work, attentive hearts, and a deep care for the human beings at the center. My stepmother burned my wedding dress. The village brought me another. That is the story you can see. The other story is that my village refused to let bitterness be our tailor. We sewed with thread made of truth. Sometimes in the evening, Kojo and I walk to the river again. The water hums. The frogs speak in their careful voices. We sit and say almost nothing. The sky becomes a bowl. In that quiet, I feel the strong hands of my community under me. I feel the council's patience. I hear Nana's voice like a line of light. I remember the proverb she offered, which I keep in the little pocket behind my heart. When the truth walks in, lies find no chair. It makes me stand straighter. The tree in our yard grew taller. Its shade fell on everyone without asking whether they had done right all day. That is what shade does. On hot afternoons, Essie and I sit beneath it and shell beans and talk about the price of yams and not about pain. The stone on the shelf still shines with its single line. The black scrap still sits beside it, quiet, a reminder with its sharp edges softened by time. Some evenings, when the wind is full, I swear I smell indigo again, not from dye or cloth, but from the memory of patient hands. And sometimes, when the moon is soft and my chest is light, I take the new dress from its careful box and touch the hem. I do not wear it around the house. I save it for our anniversaries and the generous weddings of our friends. I touch the hem to remember that beauty can be remade. The white stitches feel like raindrops on a warm day. The blue feels steady, like the river in the dry season. Lower, yes, but still moving, still sure of its path. If a traveler came to our village now and asked me, "What do your people believe?" I would point to the tree and to the shelf, and to the quiet faces of those who listened under the shade that morning. I would say, "We believe that if one dress burns, many hands can make another. We believe that words spoken with care can untie knots faster than shouting can. We believe that truth is a guest worth preparing a seat for, even if it arrives at a bad hour. We believe in the strength of listening. We believe that justice needs wisdom and community and truth, not the cleverness of revenge." I would also say, "Come, sit, eat, tell your story." Maybe we can add a stitch to it. Maybe you can add a stitch to ours. The sound of the loom is always there if you listen. The river never refuses a hand. The soil holds memories but also promises. And the heart, your heart and mine, learns to keep time with fairness, so that even when the drum changes, we can dance without losing our steps.